And welcome back to Popversations. And today we've decided that we wanted to talk about a movie we saw a couple years ago called The Voyeurs. Um, and we just have. I want to.
It's last year. Just saw it last
Did we only see it? Oh, that's
year.
right.
It just seems like
Just seems like forever.
forever ago.
I wanted to talk about it for
Well, there was just stuff
Yeah.
that came up, so we're kind of back at it now. But yeah.
Yeah. So this movie follows Pippa, played by Sydney Sweeney, and Thomas, her boyfriend, played by Justice Smith, and they just moved to Montreal and got a new apartment, and she's working for like a optometrist. She's like an optometrist assistant.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. And I think the best part of this movie is actually like the very opening scene where she's in like a lingerie store and your viewpoint is like you're looking at her like from the window, almost like looking into the store, like seeing her changing.
It's very Hitchcocky technique. There's clearly it's trying to be a love letter to Rear Window in so many ways. But
yeah, I just really like that part of it because
good use of music. Eyes Without a Face. There's a lot of lines that reference what happens in the movie, and it's just, I think, a great pairing, especially in the beginning. But
it's perfect. Like the very like first part of the movie is like showing you like, yeah, this is kind of wrong. You feel kind of like weird about like watching her like that, and then she closes the curtain, and then you kind of realize like, oh man, I'm being that person. And so it's kind of, I think it's kind of setting up like how what she's doing is like very wrong, and then it just keeps, I don't know. So they like get the apartment, they start watching their neighbors who are named like Seb and Julia, and Seb is like a photographer and Julia travels for work. She does like the art gallery. Art gallery.
She helps them with the art stuff.
Yeah, and basically he just like cheats on her all the time and seems like a total awful boyfriend, and they just get really caught up in like watching them. And so it starts off like really innocently where like, you know, he was like choking and they're like rooting for her to like, you know, like, should we call somebody, what do we do? And then she ends up like Heimliching him and it's fine, and they get like all excited and about it and like get into like their lives and stuff, which that was like a cool way to like get them like interested in it. Like they're like, you know, they like them at first, like as a couple and stuff, and then they start to see like how bad their relationship is. And I mean, it's really hard. Like I know that it's really hard to like justify why they start like listening in on them though.
Yeah,
they kind of play it like they're trying to be spies and do something fun, but it's very like so few people would go to that step.
It's what makes Sydney Sweeney's character unlikable from the get-go. She convinces her boyfriend to do this, and he doesn't want to do this. He's the morality in the story. It's fine.
It's a very quiet morality.
Well, you're playing because it's exciting for both of them for a while, because they end up, you know, sort of joining in on the fun.
Yeah, trying to like put it into their sex life and stuff. And I like that.
But she's more into like the thrill and the addiction of searing into other people's lives.
And she just likes that guy. That's the whole like the huge problem I have with this movie, because obviously we're like getting into spoilers, but like she's the villain of the movie. Like she should be, because the whole thing is like she's trying to like they like are watching them like while having sex and stuff because it turns her on, and then like it's all about him though, and then she keeps watching him while he's sleeping and him while he's doing stuff. She doesn't really care about the woman. Like the only time she does is to try and get them. She wants them to break up. She wants to live out that fantasy of what he's doing with all these girls with her, and that's like her whole driving force like this whole time, and it ruins her relationship. And from their eyes, kills somebody in the process, and then she's still trying to do it. Like, she still goes through with it, and she knows that, and that's, like, the really confusing part about the end, is she knows that he doesn't care about any of these women, he just drops them. And she, like, when she goes to the art thing, she's like, oh, what's wrong? And it's like expecting them, it's almost like she's expecting them to have, like, start a relationship. Which I think is really strange. Like,
it's pretty weird. I get it.
It's like, what did you expect? Like, the first half, like, it's like, okay, she's getting way too into this because she's so obsessed with this guy. And, like, when I first watched it, I thought maybe she knew him from, like, her past or something, and that's why they picked that apartment, and that's why she was watching him, which I think could have been an interesting thing. Like, she knew him before.
Well, maybe she already slept with him. Twist than what we got. I get it. I get the plot and the setting. It's playing off of you live downtown. You have wide open windows, whether they're open or closed. There's always going to be somebody peering through those windows.
And you're just inviting people to watch.
For the people that think that that's super artistic, it's like, no, it's not. Like, and everyone, I think, who is positive as somebody who's negative and comparing this to another movie like, let's say, Rear Window. Rear Window is different because Jimmy Stewart is the hero of the movie because he witnesses a murder. He starts to realize by the end of the film that, oh, this isn't okay. Like, I had different assumptions about people that were completely wrong as time went on. And he's like, there's that morality in the end where he's like, yeah, I caught a killer, but like,
I did it by violating people's privacy. I did it by
violating people's privacy. And then, like, by the end of this film, I don't think that anything is learned. Like, gives me no indication that she's going to move on and live somewhere else where maybe she's in a similar scenario and not do the same thing. I think voyeurism can be an addicting thing, and maybe it's trying to hint at that, which it can be. But then again, like, I live in a neighborhood where people can, like, I can see across in my neighbor's house, but I never catch them looking, and they never catch me, like, standing there, just in all my glory looking at them or something.
I think I noticed there were, like, a lot of shots, like, in between shots of the movie where they're showing other people in their apartments and stuff like that, and I think to me, it was hinting like, look, there's other people's lives, and they're just focused on these people. And everybody could be looking at them, but they're the ones that are, like, obsessed with it, and everybody else is just living their lives, and they're the ones hyper-focused on everything. And I think that's kind of, like, what it was trying to say, and also, like, that whole thing of, like, well, at the same time, like, you're the one with the wide open windows and no curtains, and you're expecting people not to notice, like, w's happening, and you're having sex, and you're doing all this stuff, and, like, everybody can see it, like, not just us.
It's because they, you come to find out that they want people to see it, and that's part of, like, their fetish, is, like, they want people to peer in their lives, but then they want to demonize the people who do, because, like I said, it could be somebody else living in that apartment. It could be the apartment above them. It could be the apartment to the right or left of them or below, whatever. And they still would, no matter who it is or how often they're doing it, like, one person peering into their lives, like, they want it, but then they want to, like, turn that around and be like, look how sick you are for looking into our lives. It's like, but you're also taking interest in those people.
Like, you get, like, no, like, major protagonists in this movie. Like, there's no. And if anything, it's Justice Smith, but it's really funny because, like, I just thought it was so weird. Like, not even that, like, he was already kind of done. And then she tells, like, Julia basically through the printer thing that she connects to, like, sending her the messages, like, he's cheating on you. She finds out, like, she allegedly kills herself and stuff. Like, how do you fake it? Anyway, there were paramedics. It was, like, a really big, elaborate thing that they were doing, apparently. And so that happens, and then, like, you get back over to them, and he's like, okay, we're not, and, like this, he's got a bag, and he's fucking out the door in, like, 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds of this girl killing himself, he, like, leaves. And I'm like,
it's a plot.
It's super weird.
It's a plot device because you're rushing, because they're trying to rush to the ending. Like,
I just don't, like, it seemed like the movie was heading, like I said, to me it appeared like maybe she knew this person, like, she's already obsessed with him, and that's why they moved there and all this stuff. Because that's just, like, how it seemed, like, based on how they did it. It's like, why else would you be so obsessed with a guy that, like, throws women away like that and then expect that to not happen to you, like, you're special in some way? And, like, seemed like the movie was going this way, this way, this way, and then they just
it's just implausible twists and turns. The movie towards the end just starts to like a cheap play. You know, like
it is. It's like really one of those plays for like the shock value at the end.
Again, there are a lot of things that I liked about it. I like the look of it. I like the intro. I like the beginning. I think I can forgive because like you said, Sydney Sweeney's technically supposed to be the main villain in this. Like when you look at things, when you put it into perspective, so like I can forgive some of the character flaws, because you should have started it with I should be rooting for this person. Like this is wrong, but there should be something here that like keeps me on board with it, kind of thing.
Well, if they would have showed her watching more of Julia and like her being upset and like
she's just
crying.
An obsessive pervert. That's what this is.
Basically,
it's the perversion of it.
They make it seem like she's on like the guy's side the whole time and not Julia's. Like so, that she's not doing it to actually help her. She's doing it for selfish reasons because all they're showing is her watching this dude sleep and weird stuff like that.
Well, because she's, it's
like there's something wrong with you.
Part of the boyfriend leaving is there was stuff that led up to that because he like brings up her not paying attention to him. He comes out and like catches her walking like.
And then when they're like having sex, like there's clearly something off like about their sex life also.
Yeah.
So they already like have issues.
Seeking something.
So, I mean, I could see it a little bit if she's just like looking for like the thrill of sleeping with him. But again, like when they go to the art gallery thing, like she's acting like it's very obvious. Like she's acting like, hey, like what's wrong with you? Like are you okay, honey? Like kind of thing almost. And I'm like. Like, if you were just, like, one and done with this guy, like, after you got the thing that you wanted, and then you just, and, like, that would be more interesting if, like, that was kind of the way the movie ended, if she's, like, if she was like, hey, I wanted this the whole time, and, like, he's like, whoa, what the hell is the matter with you? And then towards the end, like, he starts to be, like, remorseful about the whole thing, which is also really weird. Like, you know how far in you have to be?
The big reveal is where it goes off the rails.
Like,
because she goes... She has sex with him, boyfriend just died, by the way. Just died. I'm going to go to his art show. Like, she talks to her friend. She gets all excited about it. Her friend, I think, mentioned something like, this is a little weird. Like, your boyfriend, like, just died.
Like, what the heck?
And, like, what are you doing? And then she's like, well, I'm going to go. And I just see him. And then, like, it's revealed that, all of the sexual encounter got, like recorded and like pictures were put up. It's just like her naked body.
It's basically like
humiliation for the sake of art. It's supposed to be controversial, but like even with that being said, there's no way that would fly. Like there's no way like the art critics would be like, hey yo, like yeah, this person may have been like intruding in on your life, but you are also like exploiting this person without their permission. So
like, who's supposed to root for?
I don't know if you're going for like an overwhelming irony here, but like it is a little overwhelming, like with what you're doing to her, and then
and he had sex with like a bunch of other girls too. It's like, why are you not humiliating them? Like, why is it just these people?
Well, I think that they were all in like a portfolio of his, but I think like the difference there was it was probably made aware to them that they were like. Photo album. I don't know though. It doesn't really.
It was more like they knew they were getting. They were there to be photographed, so that was like the point. Was there? But he was. I don't know.
But big reveal, like boyfriend, dies, and then, he comes home, sees the whole encounter with, the character with the Seb guy, or his name is something else.
It's Seb. It's Sebastian.
Sebastian. It's just so.
So he like stupid. Sees her like dating and then like having sex with the guy, and then
he's drinking.
And then she comes back, and it appears that he killed himself. But what you really find out is that
was he drinking milk? He was drinking.
No, it was like some sort of like just like juice, Gatorade type drink. And then he put it in the bird feeder, and then it kills the bird. So she notices that, and she knows that it's poison, and that he was murdered.
But hold up. As I'm trying to replay the scene, I could be wrong. He like comes home, he like calls for her, gets no answer, goes to the fridge, starts drinking this. and then like he's doing this thing where like he's like like still drinking it and like watching as like he's leaned. I swear to God,
is that what happened?
I swear to God, that's happened. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
It wouldn't surprise me though, because it's like they do show shots of him like drinking that.
I'm not trying to like sound overly critical, but like when you sit here and think about it, it's like it's kind of funny. Like it, and so like all that happens, and then she just I'm gonna get my revenge. And how am I gonna do that? I'm an optometrist. Set that up earlier in the movie because the only reason that I even have this profession is to do this, and that's the other thing that's like messed up.
I mean, they say like Julia like comes with her to her job with the pretense of like, oh, I need glasses or whatever, but that's like the only, and she could have worked anywhere for that to happen, and it's just it's literally just a device like for the end so that she can like get them to her work, and she burns out their corneas with the LASIK machine. And so now they're blind. And honestly, like, the way that they show them blind and, like, stumbling around their apartment at the end it's funny. Like, it just looks
well, because, like, you mentioned earlier, before we even started, we were talking about it, you're like, they're so, like, rich and well off, there's no way that they wouldn't have, like, somebody there, like...
They'd be still living a pretty great life.
It's just to show, like, hey, now... they have to live with the torture of like someone's still going to be peering into their lives, and now they can do even less about it, which is like it to me again. And
it wasn't a great payoff.
Well, it's like the whole thing of like, look how creative that is. Like they were in control before,
well,
and now they're not.
It was going to be that she finds out that he didn't kill himself. There's literally evidence in the bird feeder. There's evidence still in his drink. Like, I thought she was going to, like, take that to the police.
Also,
and then they were going to get caught.
Wouldn't she be on camera dragging these people into her optometrist's office, like, after hours? Like, which, by the way, you got to get 2 bodies in there. And you got to hoist both of them. Yeah,
they followed her and then they dropped from the... She drove to their champagne or whatever, but still, she has to, like, move them around.
Because what would have really been silly is if she did that prior.
And an
elevator and brought them all the way up to, like, the 18th floor and then hoisted all their body weight on the machine and then blinded them. Like, come on. There's no way that you pulled that off.
And plus, like, you would get caught, and then why didn't they report you to the police?
I know that it's a movie. And, like, there's some things that you just have to ignore. And, yes, that does work when things will be logically explained. But when you're like, way off base and there's way too much ground to cover, to ask the viewer to be like, oh, that would happen. Because then she's just looking at him from the rooftop, right? Like, at the end. And then, like, she just kind of... puts the binoculars down, you see her face, she's smiling, and then she, like, puts the hood up, and then, like, she just walks away. And I'm just like, what?
Because at the end, you're like,
what is this ending?
Like, what am I supposed to feel here? Am I supposed to feel happy for her? And even though she, like, thinking that her boyfriend, like, killed himself over her actions, like, doesn't feel any remorse over that?
Possibly, and I know that we're not, like, established critics, and we are, like, giving our critique, overall, like, analysis of, like, what happened in the film. And normally I don't care about what critics say and what people say. But when it's almost deadlocked, like you have 43% critic score, you have 46% audience score, and each of them are 250 reviews plus. And every gripe is the same.
It's the end.
It's the ending, and it's like the overall like motivation of the character where you're just like, wow, I watched something that had no payoff. The best character died. Only character that had any sort of morality is dead. And then, like, the villain just gets to, like, walk off into the sunset. Which, again, you're led to believe that she's more than capable of being in a situation like this again, and maybe insinuating, like, she's just going to be this voyeuristic, vengeful individual. That's what she feels like in the end. She just, like I said, she just, like, turns around and, like, walks off.
It gives, like, whiplash from, like, the end of this movie, because it just, like, it does, like, this crazy turn. And I've noticed that in, like, a couple things. Like, I just watched, like, the first season of Westworld, and then, like, it just seemed like it's like you have this idea like this good like concept, and you either run out of steam on it because you don't know how to end it when you just had like this one idea and you don't know where to take it, or it's that you have the ending in your head and then you're trying to make everything make that happen, even if it doesn't make sense. Which is a lot like that movie The Perfection for me, where it's like you're making all these crazy things happen just so you can have that end shot. And it's a lot like the new Candyman movie to me too, where it's clearly like that main character is supposed to be the villain of the movie, and it's like you just decided to totally roll back on that and do something else for whatever reason. Like you thought audiences wouldn't like it, or I don't know, but I just see like this weird trend sometimes of that you have like that core concept and then you don't flesh it out enough. You don't have the end, you don't have the middle, you just have like either the beginning or like the ending. And you can't like get it to like make sense in. I just don't understand like how you would, why you would like end it this way if it was supposed to be like this the whole time. It's just a really strange. But the one thing I do really like about this is it reminds me of those like sexy thrillers from like the 90s that we got a lot of. Like,
yeah, but there's actual
kind of like Taking Lives, like where you have like that sexual element to it that makes like the movie interesting.
There's actual resolve, except for Color of Night, which makes no sense. Like, oh, I can't see red. So blood. Oh, in the end, I can see red again. Really? That's where we went? Anyways, that's a whole nother video. I think what would have made this movie better is if you're gonna play off the morality of like peering into other people's lives is wrong, even though we have more access to do that now more than ever, just from the comfort of our own home and watching a screen, whatever. You should have done a thing of like, maybe they find out that they're being watched and then they kind of become vengeful, and then
they turn it around on them and you don't know that it's real.
Well, no, like the main characters are just like, oh, like, we're so sorry, you know, and they go, oh, it's too late, like, it doesn't matter, now you're gonna, you know, see what it's like to be peered on, and then, like, they force them to, like, do stuff, like, they're sick in the head, you know, because they already clearly are sick, like, the wife knows that all this other stuff is going on, so, like, why not play into that, like, at least a little bit, where you can almost turn it into, like, it goes from, like, a Rear Window-esque movie to, like, then make the thriller. Then that way, like whatever the resolution is, like if somebody dies or like there's like a scuffle or whatever, like you leave it up to us to decide. You can ask the audience who is really the villain in this scenario. Like, is it the people who were always watching and peering into that private life? Or is it the people that found out that their private life was getting invaded? Now they almost seem to try and take some form of justice into their own hands. You can create a different
you have to go like
morality kind of question.
I think
you can still make it a thriller.
Like they were trying to do that. They were trying to do the like, oh, who's really the bad guy? Like towards the, but the fact that she gets revenge on them and is like triumphant over it, and but that kind of like it. Both things would have to be like kind of unresolved for you to be like, oh, who's the real villain here? Like it shouldn't have like a clean cut like they suffer and she doesn't anymore kind of thing. Because if you have it both where they're like in some way, like either you just leave it how it is after the art show and then you get to decide. And so I think that's kind of like what they were trying to do is like, oh, who's the real bad guy? But they just did it in like a really weird way. And yeah, I do like that it's kind of, they're bringing like an edge and like a sexiness back into like that thriller kind of thing, which is what makes that kind of more fun. And we don't see a lot of those anymore. A lot of movies don't have that element to it. And so I like that part of it, but it just didn't work. Like whatever it was that exactly that they were trying to do, it just didn't work. And I think so many people really got really interested in like the first half of the movie, and then you just feel cheated at the end of it.
I would care, like, because the whole thing is like, well, you clearly killed my boyfriend, so now I'm going to take your eyesight and torture you and let you.
Yeah, and if they hadn't poisoned him, like that would be way more of a moral question. Like if they hadn't actually killed him and he did kill himself, it's like, well, you're just as bad as we are because you like made him kill himself. It's like
the main thing doesn't work when you don't care. You don't initially care that your boyfriend died. That's the problem.
That's true.
So that's the problem. That's the problem with that resolve. Is it's like because people would say, well, what's there to root for her on? It's like I wasn't even like as crappy as like those people were. I wasn't rooting for them to lose their eyesight or really have anything bad happen to them. I just thought that they were sick and twisted, like for sure.
But it's like you're wrong, but you showed me how I'm wrong too.
Deserving death or like a lifelong like impairment, while this person who is also like twisted and doing this and then like just walking off comfortably like nothing happened and is just gonna get away with it. It's like there's no resolve for like anybody. Nobody really got like the good end of the shtick here. Like it was all just you gotta accept this. Like this is the ending. Like she's just gonna walk away. You're not gonna know anything else after. You're gonna see these people struggling in their apartment. That yes, they did something really, really messed up. Like for sure. And I think that it clearly wasn't the only person that they did it to, and obviously it alludes to that at least. But I don't think to the degree of what they did to her. So. I'm really confused. Like, because I remember, like, first watching it, I was like, oh, I liked that. And then, like, I thought about it afterwards. It's like, you know what? Like, I didn't like that ending at all. And,
I think it's, like, at first you're like, hey, this is really different than a lot of other things I've seen.
And it was an ode. Like I said, there were a lot of nods to, like, movies that I just absolutely loved that I think just do it better, even though this is trying to kind of be its own thing. The difference being is all those other movies that are very similar to this, like the Voyeur movies, there's an actual like resolution in the end. Like, if you want this to work, there has to be some form of, audience resolution, something that we feel comfortable walking away from, to where we go, okay, this makes sense. You can't just rush to this and then like leave us and go, what do you think?
And I mean, there are like good parts to the movie. Like I said, the very first shot, the very first half, like I like how it looks. It looks beautiful. It's really good looking.
No,
movie.
It's
the set. So like
great.
The setting of it is so cool. Like the apartment like area that they're in is like almost like a big like square, and there's like a courtyard almost in the middle, so everybody's like closing on all sides. So you have like almost no choice but to look at them, which I think is a really cool like
set
part of it that they
all
do.
That is great, and I think really there are some parts where the acting is a little weird, I guess, like suspect, but I think that everyone in it has talent. I think Justice Smith
he should have been in it more.
He needs to be in more things. Obviously, I liked him in Dungeons and Dragons. Great.
And he's good in the Pokemon.
Loved him in the Pokemon movie.
He was the perfect moral character to be in this movie, and he's hardly in it.
He's great. He's great in the Quarry. Great game. Play it. It's just like Until Dawn. But, I really feel like when you're getting like almost that 50 percentile, and that's like your consensus with your audience, like you were etching towards something. When you're like 20% or below, you had to.
It could definitely be worse. Like it could definitely.
It could be worse. And she's in another movie on Prime that is, and maybe we'll talk about it if I remember. I'll look it up, and then I'll have you watch it, and then maybe we can talk about that. It's another ending where you're like, okay, and there's good ideas in it. That's
even more disappointing, I think, than having a whole movie that's bad, because you see the potential in it. It's just like anytime I think of a disappointing movie, I think of Wonder Woman, like 1984, because it's like you had like the first one was, as far as that goes, like such a good jumping off point for like a sequel, and then it was just a mess. And like when stuff has that, you see the potential in it, whether it's like just the movie as a whole before you even see it, or even half of it or a quarter of it, and then the rest of it sucks, and there's parts of it that are good and interesting, like that's way more disappointing to me.
I agree, but part of the beauty of a movie, even if the Voyeurs isn't everything that you would want it to be in the end is at least we need movies like this because it strays away from trying to go into like franchises and like movies that don't deserve to have franchises.
Yeah, that's like the one good thing about the streaming is like you kind of have that landscape of like back in the day where you could kind of do whatever you wanted.
You have more freedom. I do think that Prime, because it's a Prime original, Prime has a lot of good original movies, and I think that this one, I think that whoever directed it is extremely talented. There are a lot of great like shots in this movie. Really,
I did notice that. Yeah,
there's some really cool things that are done.
And they're doing like an ode to stuff, but it's not a copy.
It's not a copy.
It is doing it different because it's like a whole couple together doing it.
It's a tip of the cap, which again is great. There's just some things that you can't remake because they're just so well done.
And yeah, I think they just were like, we're not even gonna attempt.
It's close. It's so close to me, like recommending it for the sake of it being like good, like something that you could watch and be satisfied.
I think if you go into it knowing the ending isn't like what you would want it to be, you can appreciate the parts of it that are good. So I would like recommend just to see it just for that it's different.
I'm curious to see, for anyone who watches us and watches this video, like what they really think about it as well. Because I love going back and reading some of the comments of previous questions that are brought up. It just really makes me put my thinking cap on. Because I'll do it like throughout the day. Like I'll go and I'll read someone's comment and then like I'll walk away and I'm just like mowing the lawn and I'm like, yeah, why is that? And I'm like thinking about your like comments and like what you say, which is why we like just having discussions about it because because there might be videos in the future where you revisit something where maybe somebody brings up a point and then we rewatch something and we go, you know what?
And it's nice to like because when I first watched this, I'm like, did anybody else feel this way about this
I'm sure
movie?
that they did.
And so it's nice sometimes to see comments where like, oh no, I totally agree. And like, it's kind of nice to have that, like any kind of like conversation about things, whether it's like making you kind of change your opinion and look at it again, or you get to have that like, oh no, like I do see what you mean there. And I just love it. And like any kind of like comment and stuff, we always try and answer them because that's the whole point. It's supposed to be a popversation, like conversation, and so that's like what we really want and our favorite part about it, really.
Overall, I mean, I would say I would encourage to watch it.
Give it like a solid like C-, almost D+, just because the ending kind of ruins it. But there is stuff there.
As far as Amazon movies, and I've watched quite a few, I'd say 20 to 30 Amazon original movies and shows. I would put it probably right smack dab in the middle, maybe just a bit below. There are worse things to watch. We kind of went through a spoiler discussion, but it's just I don't know. It didn't hit the way that it probably could have, but there are worse things to watch out there. So you just have to make up your own, formulate your own opinion.
Yeah, and let us know your own opinion because that's kind of what we like. And like I said, you can get different perspectives on things from like listening to what other people have to say, and that's what we're all about. And I'm sure Kate would be very interested in what people have to say.
She clearly is. She got up on the chair.
She just wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
She just wants to be involved. But yeah, let us know, and
absolutely.
We'll see you next time.